Part 11. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 101. Wu Wei squinted his eyes, as if recalling the past, and said, "There are no years in the mountains, but there are thousands of years in the world. From the time I can remember, Master has always looked like a child with gray hair. When I grew up to 18 years old, he still looked like that. He often said that the most martial arts people in the world can practice is Qi training, which is called Qigong. What I teach you is the real immortal technique, which is to cultivate immortality directly. But cultivating immortals is about living outside the world, so 10 days ago, he asked me to go down the mountain and enter the world of mortals to practice. He also said that when my skills are up, I will naturally return to the master." In this way, the story of a master coming down the mountain was narrated through Wu Wei's mouth. The smoke and his handsome and heroic face immediately attracted many people to come over. After the sound of the film, Wu Wei came back to his senses. Looking at the faces surrounding him, I was also shocked. He originally just wanted to trick Tianfuxian into telling him about his previous family, or even at most let him introduce him. Who would have thought that it would become so big all of a sudden and attract so many fanatical believers? Obviously, the story is the downhill routine of a master who failed in his previous life. They actually believe it? Of course, there are also voices of disbelief and questions. You said we are practicing Qi, but you are cultivating immortals. What is the difference between cultivating immortals and practicing Qi? The person asking the question was the bald man who had previously promoted turtle breath kung fu. Wu Wei smiled casually, looking more and more mysterious in the eyes of everyone. The Qi training period is only the foundation for cultivating immortals. After Qi training, there are also foundation building, pill formation, nascent soul, and God transformation. A whole set of theories for mortals to cultivate immortality was brought out, and everyone around them was fascinated by it. Only Tianfuxian's eyes moved. "You are so shameless." I just complimented him casually, and he climbed up the pole. The key is to climb so high that you can't reach it and can't pull it down. I thought there was no one in Peace Park who was better at deceiving people than him. Unexpectedly, this kid came out of nowhere and was even better at deceiving him than he was. Damn it, he really did it. The key is his theoretical framework, which sounds pretty much the same. And what's more terrible, cultivating immortality is more attractive than just developing a special power. Tianfuxian understood that it was impossible to send people away by causing trouble. And in that case, it might even backfire on his own foundation. The only way is to figure out the other party's purpose as soon as possible and send them away happily. So during lunch, I went to a small restaurant next to Peace Park. Tianfuxian ordered a table full of delicious dishes and an extra bottle of Wulianjai. The specifications and standards are really not low. Even so, Tianfuxian still felt that as long as Wu Wei could be sent away smoothly, the money would be well spent. After pushing the cup and changing the cup, Tianfuxian got straight to the point and said, "Brother Wu, let's not talk behind the scenes. It doesn't matter whether you have just come down from the mountain to study under a master, or you still want to do something specific. If you have any ideas, just tell me. Brother, I will help you if I can." "Absolutely nothing." Wu Wei smiled. "Brother Tian, in your eyes, is it less important than practicing Qigong to spend money on treasury bonds?" Tianfuxian raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "They had exchanged foreign exchange certificates before, but they just exchanged them for treasury bills this year. As for me, as long as I control this small Qigong team, no matter what it does, it can't shake me." Wu Wei couldn't help but nod. It was indeed true. "If that's the case, Brother Tian, then I'll tell you directly." After a pause, Wu Wei continued, "I want to meet your boss and discuss some business." Before Tianfuxian agreed, he confirmed, "That's it?" Wu Wei nodded. "Okay, Tian Fuxian put down his chopsticks, slapped his thigh and said, "There is a Wu Palace Hotel in JA District. There is a salon every Saturday at 7 o'clock. The salon is hosted by a lady. Her name is Huang Kia, and she opens the salon. A blue Lotta 2105. At this point, Tian Fuxian looked at Wu Wei's poor appearance and said, "But before meeting Miss Huang, I advise you to show off your appearance. Miss Huang is the most particular about elegance and would not tolerate others being so slovenly. Wu Wei is a member of his own family who knows his own affairs. Other requirements may be met, but this military coat cannot be left for a moment. But since she is an elegant woman driving a Lotta, could she be the legendary little bourgeoisie? And it's Saturday night, isn't it tonight?" Wu Wei's eyes lit up and he asked with great interest, "Brother Tian, how old is this Miss Huang and what is her background? How can she manage such a game?" Tian Fuxian suddenly looked wary. "Don't you want to eat soft rice?" But then again, Tian Fuxian had to admit that as long as this boy changed his body dressing clothes and added a little bit of embellishment, he would really be able to make a living. Wu Wei laughed in surprise. "Brother Tian, where are you thinking? I just want to find out the strength of this Miss Huang." Tian Fuxian poured a glass of wine slowly, drank it down and said, "I heard that Miss Huang started her business by exchanging foreign exchange certificates by translating for foreigners. No one knows her specific age, but she looks like she is only 25. 6 looks like. As for her strength, now that she can host this salon, there is no need to say much about her strength. At least this is the amount of treasury bills she handles from me every month." Tian Fuxian said and made a sign. Wu Wei thought to himself, 8,000 is impossible. Even he doesn't care about this amount, let alone Huang Kia. So, it should be at least 80,000 in turnover. But Wu Wei didn't say it out loud, so as not to expose his strength. So after a shocked expression, he continued to toast and chat. Tian Fuxian didn't forget to ask Wu Wei for a promise that he would never appear in Peace Park again. After Wu Wei received 2 more packs of huazi from the other party, he patted his chest and agreed. So then, the host and the guest had a good time. After the two of them cut a bottle of Wulianjai together, Tian Fuxian paid the bill. Waving goodbye at the door of the hotel, never see each other again. After saying goodbye to Tian Fuxian, Wu Wei was in a good mood and went straight back to the guest house to sleep. When he woke up from the lunch break, it was just 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The smell of alcohol at noon was almost gone, but to be on the safe side, Wu Wei still brushed his teeth to freshen his breath. By the way, he washed his face and shaved off his stubble. It's just the finishing touch, but don't let the flaws in your image ruin the whole thing. Details determine success or failure. Since the other party is elegant, let's cater to their tastes and be elegant first. It's not a difficult thing anyway, after all, we have the foundation. Not long after, the lights came on. When Wu Wei wrapped himself in a military coat and went out, even the young ladies in the guest house were dazzled. Wu Wei knew what was going on and smiled at them. Then he waved his hand, stopped a red Lotta, and drove straight to Wujiang Hotel. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 102. At night in Shanghai in 1986, neon lights were not yet popular. Only scattered street highlights dotted the barren night. In comparison, Wu Palace Hotel stands out too much. With its brightly lit and resplendent appearance, even those with little money have to walk around. But in the eyes of Wu Wei, who has lived for 2 generations, this is all childish. In his previous life, he and Qin Zairu frequently checked in at various luxurious 5-star hotels, leaving traces behind. Not long after, the Rada taxi arrived at the entrance of Wu Palace Hotel. Before Wu Wei could push the door and get out of the car, someone opened the car door from the outside. The doorman who opened the car door was dumbfounded when he saw Wu Wei's appearance. According to hotel regulations, disheveled guests are not allowed to enter. This made the doorman, who was fully expecting to receive a tip, a little embarrassed. Because this was the first time he saw such guests. While he was still hesitating, he saw Wu Wei taking the 3 yuan change he got from the driver and handing it directly into the doorman's hand. Then in front of the other party, he took off his patched military coat with great fanfare. Roll it up into a ball, put it under your arm and say, "Can I go in now?" The doorman came to his senses and quickly stepped aside. "Yes, sir, please come in." Gone is the shabby military coat. Wu Wei was wearing a standard shirt and trousers, and a pair of shiny leather shoes. His hair was neatly combed and his beard was clean shaven. Nothing wrong with it at all. It does not violate the hotel's rules at all. The doorman had no reason to stop him, not to mention that he had just received a $3 tip. Although it is a little less, mosquitoes are still meat no matter how small they are. Just looking at Wu Wei's thin back as he strode like stars, the doorman couldn't help but tremble. "Isn't he cold?" But Wu Wei really didn't feel cold, especially after walking into the hall. Before Hilton landed in Jing'an, Shanghai in 1988, Shanghai's hotel industry didn't quite understand how to interpret 5-star standards, so they had to exaggerate grandeur and bright lights. Magnificent decoration style, as well as various brightly lit crystal chandeliers. By the way, turn on the air conditioning and heating at full speed, just like the electricity bill is free. Otherwise, the 2 rows of Cheongsam ladies greeting guests in the lobby would not be so thinly dressed to make people angry. However, Wu Wei's eyes did not linger on the Cheongsam lady for too long. He quickly noticed the Beijing time in the lobby, which was just after 6:30. According to Tianfuxian, Huan Qia's salon starts at 7 o'clock. It seems that I didn't arrive too late. After confirming this, Wu Wei immediately chose a seat in the lounge area of the lobby and sat down. So that you can notice every arriving car through the glass curtain wall. It can also provide a panoramic view of every guest entering the hotel lobby. Mainly a double insurance. It was just a Saturday night and the hotel was particularly lively. There is an endless stream of people coming and going. Wu Wei knew clearly that among these people there were certain big bosses from all walks of life who would be known for generations to come. But unfortunately, the images of the big guys in their minds after they became famous did not match up with the many faces in front of them. I can only be a layman and watch the excitement. Until a blue Lotta 2105 appeared outside the door. Compared with the red Lotta taxis that are all over the streets, the blue Lotta taxis are too eye-catching. However, compared to the eye-catching appearance of the car, the woman who got out of the car was even better. Wearing a pair of long boots and a beige woolen coat, she showed off her tall, slender figure. A head of stylish wavy hair, paired with simple and elegant silky wet wipes. It can be said to be the perfect combination of classic and fashionable. Coupled with the elegant atmosphere emanating from every gesture, it instantly attracted the attention of most people in the hotel lobby. However, Huan Qia seems to have long been accustomed to all this. I tipped the doorman unhurriedly and then walked into the hall. For a moment, the young and beautiful Cheongsam ladies, who were divided into 2 rows, were suddenly eclipsed. The guests who stopped in the hall involuntarily moved out of the way. This actually made things easier for Wu Wei, who had been waiting for a long time. Wu Wei stood up and followed him forward, taking 3 steps at a time. In a blink of an eye, we arrived at the elevator entrance. There are many customers waiting for the elevator. But when they saw Huan Qia coming, they all wanted to be humble. So much so that there were only 2 people in the huge elevator, Wu Wei and Huan Qia. The elevator slowly went up, becoming a private space without a third person. Wu Wei took a deep breath. It was now. Don't miss the opportunity, it will never come back. Miss Huang, I am Wu Wei, introduced here by Master Tian. Huan Qia turned slightly sideways, frowned and said, that swindling Tianfusion. Wu Wei nodded quickly. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Huang Qia's face suddenly turned cold. Are you also practicing Qigong? I felt the sudden change in the other party's attitude. Wu Wei immediately made a clear statement, no dog can train that thing. I am a person who honestly relies on my craftsmanship to make a living. As he spoke, he revealed the layers of old calluses and new calluses on his hands. Huang Qia was slightly surprised, but her expression softened slightly. It was obvious that he was not interested in Tianfusion's deception. Just then, the elevator door opened. Huang Qia asked as she got out of the elevator, "What do you want from me?" "If we are selling treasury bills, according to our salon's old rules, we will give you a 10% discount. Tianfusion, this old man, can make a net profit of 5 to 10 points after just one resale. His subordinates will also rely on cutting treasury bonds to make another profit. Fortunately, I didn't fall for his trick." Wu Wei secretly rejoiced and immediately followed up, "Ms. Huang, can you give a higher price? After all, it's normal to bargain in business." As a result, the next moment, Huang Qia said nothing and pushed the door in. She left Wu Wei outside the door. Separated by a door, Wu Wei calmed down instantly. At least he is not qualified to enter the salon inside the door. But he didn't plan to give up on Huang Qia. With her, there is at least a 10% discount. The treasury bonds worth nearly 26,000 yuan on him mean a net profit of more than 10,000 yuan. It would be better if we can talk about it next. Even if we can talk about it a little bit more, it will be a net profit. If we can't talk, Wu Wei will stop when he sees the good. Having made up his mind, Wu Wei patiently waited in the corridor. Finally, after 9 o'clock, the door that Huang Qia had walked into opened again. A well-mannered middle-aged man came out first, followed by another young and strong man. The two chatted and laughed happily. It can be seen that they are very speculative. Compared with the crowds of people in the hall, they were close at this moment. Wu Wei felt more and more familiar with them, and with their mutual address, the identities of the two were immediately clear. The well-mannered middle-aged man with glasses turned out to be the famous securities godfather Guanjin's Hung. And the young and strong man with a mouthful of old teeth was the famous Yang Huaiding Yang Baiwen. Wow, this salon that Huang Qia put together really has something. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 103. Rao is like this, facing two influential figures close at hand. Wu Wei did not step forward to talk rashly and allowed them to leave laughing. With his current worth, he is not qualified to make friends at all. For now, it would be prudent to sell the treasury bonds to Huang Qia in a down-to-earth manner. After a while, the door slowly closed. About a dozen people came out, but Huang Qia was nowhere to be seen. Wu Wei was about to take a look when he saw the door opened and a slightly tired Huang Qia came out. Seeing this, Wu Wei swallowed the words as they came to his lips. Now is obviously not the time to talk business. He just stayed with me silently until he entered the elevator and went down to the lobby. When the elevator door opened, Huang Qia suddenly became energetic. The moment I stepped out of the elevator, I had regained my previous elegance. "Ms. Huang, can I buy you a cup of coffee?" Wu Wei promptly extended the invitation. After a while, the two of them took their seats in the cafe next to the lobby. The waiter walked over quickly. "Ms. Huang, are you the same as before?" Huang Qia nodded slightly and said, "Thank you." Then the waiter looked at Wu Wei. "A glass of Americano, thank you." Huang Qia raised her eyebrows. This guy had the same taste as hers. I just don't know how a country bumpkin with calloused hands will behave when he drinks bitter coffee. Just thinking about it makes me look forward to it. However, Huang Qia soon became disappointed. When Wu Wei drank the American style, he didn't react at all, and he didn't add sugar to it in a hurry. It was as if he had long been accustomed to this taste. Huang Qia became curious about the man in front of her for the first time. "Tell me the reason why I bought your treasury bonds at a high price." Upon hearing this, Wu Wei put down his coffee cup and said, "It is only a matter of time that treasury bills are publicly circulated and transferred. By then, prices will inevitably become more transparent, and price differences across regions will gradually level out." As the sponsor of the salon, doesn't Ms. Huang want to collect more treasury bills and wait for the day when circulation and transfer are open to make a lot of money? Huang Qia's eyes lit up after hearing these few words. In fact, within the salon, she is still the host. But she doesn't engage in hoarding. Whether it's treasury bills or foreign exchange certificates, they just pass through her hands and earn a small price difference. The reason is that she knows her own advantages. Become more aware of your own shortcomings. She has neither the professional judgment nor the smart mind to promote promotion. Nor does he have Yang Huiting's keen business insight. Now, after listening to Wu Wei's words, she was suddenly eager to give it a try. Otherwise, these men in the salon will always think that they are just vases. This is the thought. Huang Qia still did not agree immediately, but further asked, "Why don't you stay?" While Wu Wei was laughing, he also laughed at himself. "With my strength, I can only make a small fuss in my hands, and I can't make waves. Instead, it is better to save more capital before the policy is opened, and then give it a try." After hearing this, Huang Qia nodded involuntarily. "Okay, I'll take all your treasury bills, but the maximum discount is 92% off, and it can't be any higher." After all, the treasury bills transferred to other owners within the salon through my hands are also priced at this price. Whether this was true or false, Wu Wei didn't care anymore. Because of the extra gains of 2 points, he had already met his expectations. After all, it's more than 500 yuan in cash. In contrast, Huang Qia used 2 points of risk cost to gain nearly 20 points of profit in the future, and at the same time subverted her personal influence and image within the salon. Definitely worth a try. Half an hour later, Wu Wei left with more than 23,000 in cash, satisfied. Fortunately, there was a salon tonight, so I managed to catch up with Ms. Huang and reached a cooperation. Otherwise, at another time, just withdrawing such a large amount of cash would take a long time in the bank. Take a taxi back to Keita guest house. Wu Wei's cash in hand has exceeded 26,000 yuan. This meant that on the way back, he still couldn't do without this worn-out military coat. A night without words. The next day is the end of the month, Sunday, the 30th. Wu Wei finished his business and slept until dawn. It wasn't until someone knocked on the door that he gradually woke up. Looking through the peephole, it was Yang Qiao who had come to deliver breakfast. Feeling relieved, Wu Wei directly pulled the person into the room and said, "There should be no classes today, right?" Yang Qiao blushed instantly, but she still nodded shyly. Soon, "Do not disturb" was hung outside the door. It wasn't taken off until noon. After the meal, Yang Qiao looked at the bed of cash that Wu Wei had rolled out, and his mouth opened wider than in the morning. All this cash is going to be sewn into army coats. Wu Wei stroked the millstone and said, "You are tired." Yang Qiao said with a proud face, "I'm not tired, these are the money you earned with great difficulty. No matter how tired you are, you must protect them." Wu Wei took back his big hand, took out a wad of cash and said, "Then you sew first, I'll go out to buy tickets and do some errands on the way." Yang Qiao said without raising her head, "Go." After leaving the Keita guest house, Wu Wei first bought a return train ticket for the evening, and then went straight to Nanjing Road. I bought 2 Shanghai watches at the first department store and a few kilograms of imported candies, so I couldn't wait to come back. Back at the guest house, Yang Qiao had just finished sewing halfway. She was so serious that she didn't even notice Wu Wei opening his shiny watch. It wasn't until the brand new Shanghai watch, with a click, was put on her wrist that she was suddenly startled and said repeatedly, "This is too expensive, I can't have it." Wu Wei said without question, "Wear it, don't take it off." Qiao was moved and hugged Wu Wei. This was the first time she threw herself into his arms. Wu Wei touched the head in his arms and said lightly, "Okay, it's just a watch, and you are so moved. How can you be so gullible?" Qiao said in a sweet and innocent way, "I am moved, I am moved." Wu Wei laughed and said, "If you keep moving, you will accidentally fire the gun, and it will delay the business later." Qiao continued to sew before he finished speaking. When leaving the guest house in the evening, Wu Wei did not let Qiao see him off. Firstly, I was worried about her being alone, and secondly, I didn't want to waste money on sending her back and forth. But Qiao still ran a long way after the car. Wu Wei in the car couldn't help but feel sad. This silly girl, even if you have 2 long legs, you can't run faster than 4 wheels. The return train ticket is still a hard seat ticket. Wu Wei was alone, not only wrapped in a military coat as usual, but also deliberately messed up his hair. He looked poor and dirty. Ordinary people would retreat when they saw him, not to mention the third hands in the carriage. In this way, we arrived in Pengcheng safely. Then we took a minibus and headed straight to Bailun. It was put on the shelves at dawn on the 1st, but I didn't save the manuscript yet, so I was panicking. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 104. When we returned to Bailun, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. Carrying a small amount of luggage, Wu Wei got off the bus in the pleasant minibus. Breathing in the fresh air of the county town, I suddenly felt like it was the next day. 5 days have passed, and the sudden heavy snow has not left many traces. Everything was exactly as Mr. Qiao expected. Feeling relieved, Wu Wei reached out to stop a Sanbengzi and went straight to the Bai Road courtyard. I didn't get much sleep that night. When I returned to the small courtyard, I fell asleep directly. Until the belly makes a drum sound, 3 times in a row. Then I had to get up and go into the kitchen to buy something to pad my stomach. The small kitchen is full of things that Qiao loves to use. As soon as Wu Wei stood inside, he always felt that this silly girl was still behind him, as if she would suddenly hug him the next second. There is nothing better than this when seeing things and missing people. Wu Wei was stunned for a while, then finally took a breath and decided to go out to eat. Go back to the room, hide the military coat, and go out with only a large uniform. Go to the Dongta River and go around to the front row, which is the row of street-facing shops next to Bai Road. Wu Wei picked a noodle restaurant and ordered a bowl of braised beef noodles. When it was served, the whole layer of braised beef was covered. After eating a bowl of noodles like this, it only costs 1 yuan a bowl. Wu Wei handed Zhang Daichuan over to him. The boss wiped his hands on it and said blankly that they just opened today and couldn't find it. In desperation, Wu Wei could only go to the newsstand in front to change money. Old Wei at the newsstand took a cigarette from Wu Wei and quickly changed the money. Looking back, he said, "Hey, Huazi. Boss Wu is getting rich." Wu Wei smiled and spread out the change and said, "It's just a small fight to make a fortune." Then he handed over $1 and took a newspaper. When Old Wei took a look, he simply returned the dollar and said, "I'm too lazy to change." Wu Wei didn't show any pretense, he just put away the change and said, "By the way, Old Wei, if you call me next time, please pay attention." Speaking of this, Old Wei directly clicked on Huazi, narrowed his eyes and said, "On the time you called back a few days ago, you hung up too early." Mrs. Zhao turned around and complained that my call was not good. Said he wanted to install it himself. Wu Wei waved his hand and said, "Old Wei, don't be as knowledgeable as her." Old Wei sighed and said, "How can that be possible? After all, they are all old neighbors. Say a few words." Wu Wei returned to the noodle shop, settled the bill, and turned back to the courtyard. Eat and drink enough, no sleepiness at all. Wu Wei simply took out the scissors, took out the military coat, and took out the stitches one by one along the stitches sewn by Jiao Jiao. Not long after, wait until all the cash is taken out and calculated. Wu Wei laughed dumbly. This silly girl actually smuggled in the 2,000 yuan he left for her. 26,000 yuan is a penny. At this moment, the voice of Old Wei from the newsstand sounded at the door. "Boss Wu, you said it was a coincidence or not?" "Just as I said, I called you to find you." "I'll be right away, Lao Wei." Wu Wei quickly put away the money, took care of the doors and windows, locked the door and went out. As soon as I arrived at the phone booth, the phone rang again. When Lao Wei picked it up, he handed it over without saying anything. Wu Wei took it and found that it was indeed Jiao Jiao. "Look at the time, it's lunchtime." As soon as he opened his mouth, Wu Wei couldn't help but said angrily, "How dare you hide money without telling me?" Jiao Jiao said tacitly, "No, I really don't need that much money. Just this 1,000 yuan is enough to spend a long time. Okay, I'm home safely, you can study hard. If you have time, take some more photos and send them back. The old lady will definitely be happy." Jiao Jiao could only nod in response. "By the way, leave me the phone number in the corridor of your dormitory. I'll call you when I get the chance to save you money on long-distance calls." "Oh, then please remember." Wu Wei took the pen and paper from Old Wei and wrote down the phone number Jiao Jiao reported. After hanging up the phone from Jiao Jiao, Wu Wei threw another huazi to Lao Wei. Returning to the courtyard again, Wu Wei grabbed a handful of candies brought back from Shanghai and opened the courtyard next door. In the small courtyard, Mrs. Zhao was still under the eaves, with a blanket covering her knees and Xiao Hui lying beside her legs. It seemed that after Jiao Jiao left, she returned to her usual old-fashioned appearance. Wu Wei coughed lightly. Xiao Hui was awakened first. The fat little bastard ran down the steps and accidentally fell onto his back. Even so, he still didn't stop Xiao Hui from rushing over. Wu Wei had to be careful where he stepped, for fear of stepping on the little Hui that was surrounding his feet like a pillar for King Qin. Just like that, he moved to Mrs. Zhao and poured a lot of candies into her arms. It doesn't matter whether the old lady wants it or not. The old lady suddenly woke up and looked at these colorful candies with disdain. Until Wu Wei squatted next to her, handed over the piece of paper with the phone number written on it and said, "This is the public phone in the corridor of Jiao Jiao dormitory. If you miss her, just call her." The old lady became excited. He took the note, glanced at it, and stuck it to his chest. He glanced at it again and stuck it to his chest again, enjoying it endlessly. In the end, he didn't forget to mutter, "That's pretty much it." Sure enough, old children, the older they get, the more they look like children. After staying with the old lady for a while, Wu Wei returned to the small courtyard, pushed up the 28 big bar, and went straight to the meat factory. After all, it was just past noon, and it was still early before dark. I had to see with my own eyes how long the meat processing factory would be delayed because of the heavy snow before I could rest assured. He rode all the way to the meat processing factory gate. After not seeing him for many days, even the security guard Xiao Gong was full of fresh enthusiasm when he saw him. He came out of the gatehouse to greet him. Wu Wei had to stop the car, threw a Chinese cigarette over, and said a few words casually before entering the factory. When he arrived at the factory site, he was discovered by Master Jiao Si from a distance. He ran over all the way, and his words were quite excited. He looked up and down and said, "You kid, you are finally back." Master Chiao Wu fell behind, and simply stood still with the style of a teacher. When Wu Wei came close, he said, "It's good to be back." He Jiang, Lu Jianwei, and Shi Jianjun, who were taking a lunch break, all came over, calling each other junior and junior brothers, showing a long-lost warmth. There was no way, Wu Wei was away these days. They were scolded badly by their master, Master Chiao Wu. It was no exaggeration to say that he was a dog blood sprayer. As a result, when the junior brother came back, the master's old face immediately turned into a chrysanthemum with a smile. "Who can't see these?" Amid the greetings of the brothers, Wu Wei took a general look at the progress of the factory. The work of capping the roof was almost halfway advanced. In terms of the construction period, the deviation was not large and was still within the controllable range. Wu Wei felt relieved. In an instant, a pack of waza was scattered. Wu Wei was about to open the second pack, and the master directly issued an order to expel him and drove away all the brothers. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 105. Even so, the second package of waza still needs to be opened. The sunshine in the winter afternoon is warm. After taking out the cigarette and refilling it for fourth master and master, he directly followed the two of them and squatted down against the wall. Letting the warm sun shine on my body, I calmly recounted the thrilling experience of this trip to Shanghai. Fourth Master Chiao listened with excitement on his face. However, after hearing this, Fifth Master Chiao was still scared and said, "Next time you go out, you must bring a companion with you. Don't ever take risks alone again." Wu Wei felt Master's concern and said happily, "Master, don't worry, I will take Ma Haidao with me wherever I go from now on." Upon hearing this, Fifth Master Chiao nodded, "This guy is good, he is tall and strong, and he has an honest heart." Then he drew inferences from one example and said, "After I finish this work, I will find a few more disciples for you according to his standards." After saying this, he added, "Tang Monk still has 3 apprentices to support his thoughts." Wu Wei was non-committal. Then Fourth Master Chiao asked the key, "How have you gained from this hard work?" Wu Wei glanced at his master. Master pretends to be calm on the surface, but in fact his ears stand straight up. Wu Wei smiled and said, "Fourth Master, it's enough to buy a whole set of furniture for Section Chief Song's house." Fourth Master Chiao suddenly exhaled, looked at Wu Wei in surprise and said, "What kind of bad luck have you got, you kid? It's not an exaggeration to say that you are making a lot of money." Before Wu Wei could react, Fifth Master Chiao said plausibly, "What kind of bullshit luck? This is called ability." Seeing that these two people were about to blush again, Wu Wei quickly intervened. Fortunately, at this time, Wang Jing, the factory flower, came over. Wu Wei was overjoyed and stood up to greet him and said, "It's a coincidence that you came here. I just came back." In fact, Wang Jing comes to take a look every day. After all, more than 15,000 treasury bills were in Wu Wei's hands and had not been cashed. This is much more worrying than the love between a man and a woman. It's just that Wang Jing couldn't say it out loud. The only thing she could say was deliberately understatement, "I just came over to take a look." The implication was that he did not come over to ask for money. Wu Wei knew it well. He led Wang Jing and said, "Now that you're here, it's time to settle our previous debts." While talking, the two entered the work shed. Wu Wei took out all the 8,000 yuan he had brought, pointed out 20 unity cards, and passed the rest to Wang Jing unchanged, saying, Wang Jing took a deep breath, and her plump chest rose and fell violently. "Even though I have been worried for so many days, I even feel haggard for Yi Xiao." But when she saw the cash, Wang Jing was still shocked and inexplicable. He did it, He actually did it. Wang Jing excitedly clicked the money and her heart just returned to her stomach, but she couldn't help but ask, the new year is approaching and more people are redeeming treasury bills. Do you still plan to accept them? It seemed that exchanging treasury bills certainly made her feel worried and irritated. But after the stimulation, there is an inexplicable pleasure accompanied by dopamine. This kind of pleasure is addictive and even impossible to stop. Wu Wei said without hesitation, of course, the more the merrier. Wang Jing picked up the huge sum of money and said briskly, okay, wait for my news. After sending Wang Jing away, Wu Wei looked back. The fourth master and the master were both stunned. Until he went over with another flower. The fourth master took a deep breath and said, that's 1 month's salary for everyone at our construction site. The fifth master further stimulated, there are so many of us, working hard for a month is not worth this kid going out for a few days. Even though I already knew this before. But I didn't see so much cash in front of me, so I still didn't feel that shocked. The two brothers sighed in unison and said angrily, you kid, go back and rest quickly, so as not to be an eyesore in front of us. Wu Wei said happily, that's just right, I still owe you in a movie. The fourth master listened and laughed like a thief. The fifth master's face turned red with laughter and he was speechless. Fortunately, all joking aside, Wu Wei didn't really go just because he said he was going. Instead, he went to the construction site and found Ma Heidao. Take advantage of the little time you have now to fulfill your responsibilities as a teacher. Compared with the normal life on the construction site, the factory flower office was already in a state of explosion. Wang Jing went out and brought back nearly 10,000 yuan in cash. Employees who had previously entrusted her with the redemption of treasury bills came to her door one after another. While frantically filming Wang Jing's rainbow fart, she waited expectantly to receive her money. Wang Jing enjoyed the feeling of being so respected. While sending out the money, she notified the next batch of exchanges. Seeing Wang Jing in such a limelight, the other factory girls in the same office were secretly dissatisfied. Isn't it just relying on Boss Wu's relationship? I really don't think anyone knows. This is the typical psychology of envy, jealousy, and hatred. But this kind of mentality is really low level. The high-ranking factory girl had silently taken out the movie tickets from the drawer and went out quietly on the pretext of going to the toilet. Ma Heidao was confused when he heard this, scratching his head and ears, but he discovered factory flower first. Master, another mistress from the city is looking for you. Wu Wei gave Ma Heidao a heads up, what are you talking about, city master lady, did you listen? Ma Heidao pursed his lips and said, Master, if you don't believe me, just look at it. Wu Wei looked back and saw that, as expected, it was the girl from the factory flowers office. Although he had never dealt with this girl, she was surnamed Yu, the same surname as concubine Yu in Farewell My Concubine. So Wu Wei had some impression of her. Practice well. After saying this to Ma Heidao, Wu Wei clapped his hands and walked towards her. Your surname is Yu, right? The girl was even a little excited, my name is Yu Lily. Wu Wei understood and took a look at the factory flower named Yu Lily. Compared with Wang Jing, Yu Lily in front of him was taller, especially her long legs, which made her want to carry him. After all, to be able to enter the factory flowers office, one must have some special skills. Facing Wu Wei's scrutiny, Yu Lily was a little shy at first. But when she thought of the tall and mighty man in front of her and the unfathomable ability behind him, she immediately plucked up the courage and said, Boss Wu, can I invite you to the movies? These days, a girl taking the initiative to invite a man to the movies is almost equivalent to I want to date you. But Wu Wei is not a casual person. She could only decline, sorry, I have something to do tonight. Yu Lily said disappointedly and turned to leave. But Wu Wei stopped her and asked, what movies are there recently? Yu Lily directly stuffed 2 movie tickets into Wu Wei's hands and ran away without saying a word. Wu Wei spread out the movie tickets and took a look. T Province 84, 85 at the Red Star Cinema, tomorrow night. And the location is not bad. Come on, now I can even save the money to buy movie tickets. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 106. Yu Lily was sent away. 2 more groups of factory beauties came behind. But unlike Yu Lily, they did not specify who they were looking for, but just watched from a distance. They chattered with a gossipy look on their faces. The masters on the construction site whistled one after another. Wu Wei frowned. It seems that Wang Jing's confidentiality work is not very good, and he is obviously exposed. Of course, exposure is exposure. Wu Wei does not need to explain anything to cover up. So when it was time to get off work, Wu Wei said hello to his master and Mr. Chiao Si, and then returned to the small courtyard first. When they left the county town, it was almost dark. Wu Wei suddenly regretted that he was careless. He should have returned to the fence courtyard earlier before dark. After all, there were so many candies and cash in the car. Fortunately, the road back to the countryside was difficult to walk. But there would not be any car thieves or road bullies. After returning to the fenced yard smoothly, Li Xiaoqun and Ma Ling had not left yet. After all, even Xiaochun didn't know that she would come back today. So when Wu Wei rode into the fenced yard, it was De Huang who reacted first. When Xiaochun came out belatedly, Wu Wei had already taken the 2 nylon bags on the front of the bike and handed them to her. What is this? Xiaochun opened the bag and looked at it without knowing what it was. Even though it was not clear in the dim night, she was still shocked by the piles of big unity in the bag. So when Li Xiaoqun and Ma Ling looked over curiously, Xiaochun quickly opened another bag to show them. Fortunately, there was no big unity in the other bag, but a dazzling array of candies. In the countryside today, candies are gifts for all ages. Not to mention that these are imported candies, including chocolates, and so on. So when Li Xiaoqun stretched out her hand and took out a chocolate, Xiaochun couldn't help but feel distressed. This chocolate is probably very expensive. After all, it was brought back from Shanghai by my second brother. Wu Wei parked the car and said generously, Xiaoqun, Ma Ling, you 2 grab more and bring them back for your younger brothers and sisters to taste. Thank you, brother Wu Wei. Li Xiaoqun had already reached out to grab some happily. Ma Ling, who was honest in her heart, still said, Ma Haidao doesn't like to eat candy, but now he likes to smoke. He said he learned it from you. This kid, Wu Wei laughed and said, see how I deal with him tomorrow. Even so, Wu Wei still grabbed a handful and put it in Ma Ling's cotton jacket pocket. After all, Ma Haidao doesn't like to eat candy, there are Ma Jiangtao and Ma Yu. Eat it, take it, take it. Li Xiaoqun and Ma Ling said at the same time, brother Wu Wei, Xiaochun, we will go back first. After the 2 sisters left, Xiaochun complained with lingering fear, second brother, how can you just find a nylon bag to put so much money? Wu Wei retorted, do I have to buy a handbag to put it in? I am afraid that others can't see it. Xiaochun was speechless. After coming back to her senses, she couldn't help but ask curiously, second brother, how much money is there in it? Wu Wei said calmly, less than 20,000 yuan. Xiaochun was stunned. She just glanced at it and knew that there was a lot of money, but she didn't expect it to be so much. It's only been less than half a year, and her family has become a millionaire? Second brother is too amazing. For a moment, Xiaochun was excited and couldn't help but feel distressed. Second brother said it easily, but in fact, I don't know how much he suffered. Feeling distressed, he hurriedly said, "Second brother, you must be hungry. What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you." Wu Wei was particularly considerate and said, "Zishan is not here, and you have been busy all day. Just make a bowl of noodles to get by." As Xiaochun was hesitating, she heard a car coming outside the fence. Not long after, a 26-ton kun car arrived at the gate of the yard. Qiao Yuyan got off the car gracefully, wearing a ski jacket and jeans, which looked particularly pleasing to the eye. But Wu Wei was curious and asked, "It's not the weekend, nor is it a holiday. Why are you back?" Qiao Yuyan pushed the cart into the yard, took out 2 lunch boxes from the basket, and asked, "It's not the weekend, nor is it a holiday, so I can't come back." Wu Wei nodded repeatedly, "Yes, yes, yes. Everyone is here, so he shouldn't ask this question." Qiao Yuyan rolled her eyes at him, and turned to Xiaochun and said, "Just make some noodles, I'll bring some dishes, my mother just made them." Xiaochun heard it and agreed. While Xiaochun went to the kitchen to boil water and cook noodles, Qiao Yuyan raised her eyebrows and said in a low voice, "I heard that a factory beauty invited you to watch a movie." Wu Wei understood. When Qiao Yuyan suddenly appeared just now, he guessed that it was the master who told the secret. Now it is even more solid. "Yes, yes," Wu Wei said frankly, "but didn't I refuse? After all, I only agreed to watch a movie with you." Qiao Yuyan raised her chin proudly and snorted, "That's better." The next moment, a box was slapped on her hand. Qiao Yuyan was surprised and couldn't wait to open it and said, "What is this?" Wu Wei didn't say anything, deliberately keeping it a secret. Until Qiao Yuyan opened the box and revealed the watch inside. Wu Wei said, "Shanghai watch, specially brought for you, try it to see if it fits." Looking at the shiny Shanghai watch, Qiao Yuyan was instantly overwhelmed by this huge surprise. This is a Shanghai watch? In this day and age, which girl doesn't like such a surprise? In addition to being surprised, Qiao Yuyan couldn't help but kiss Wu Wei. As soon as her lips reached Wu Wei's cheek, she was interrupted by Xiaochun, who suddenly rushed out of the kitchen and said, "Yuyan, the candy and chocolate that my second brother brought back from Shanghai, you try it?" At this point, Xiaochun realized that she really didn't need to come out for this trip. Shanghai watches are much more fragrant than imported candies. Even if Xiaochun retreated to the kitchen urgently, the excitement was gone. Qiao Yuyan's chest, which was violently heaving, also calmed down. It turned into a pool of spring water in her eyes, almost melting Wu Wei. Wu Wei then took out the movie ticket and said, "Tomorrow night, I'll invite you to watch a movie." Qiao Yuyan didn't even look at it and said, "Well, you come to pick me up then." After saying this, Qiao Yuyan couldn't stay any longer. After all, she was too thin-skinned. She was caught by Xiaochun when such a charming scene just now happened. Wu Wei took the opportunity to send the person to the village road and watched them go away. Back to the Qiao family compound. Chen Yuejuan looked at the time. "Why are you back so soon? Did you two have a fight?" Qiao Yuyan smiled stiffly and said nothing. Qiao Wei was even more anxious. "Did you really have a fight? Why don't you say something?" Qiao Yuyan still kept silent. Until Qiao Quiliang said, "Dad, Mom, what are you fighting about? Didn't you see the shiny new watch on your sister's hand?" The old couple looked closely and saw that it was true. In the middle of winter, the daughter's wrist was still half exposed. Wasn't it just to show off the watch? Thank you for the big brother Chun Nuanjus, whose 8,888 reward again, becoming the first owner of this book. Thank you for the monthly tickets and recommendation tickets from Yanzu. Although there are still no drafts saved, I will post as much as I write. 3 more updates and 6K delivered. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 107. Chen Yuejuan felt relieved. He immediately grabbed his daughter's wrist and looked at it carefully. I'm afraid this watch costs a lot of money, right? Qiao Kuliang glanced at him and said nonchalantly. A pure Shanghai watch only costs about 200 yuan. When Chen Yuejuan heard this, she turned around and complained to her daughter, "You girl, why did you just accept such an expensive watch?" At this moment, Lu Hong came over. "What kind of watch? Who gave it to me? Why can't I accept it?" "Don't wait for Qiao Yuyan to defend." Chen Yuejuan blurted out, "The Shanghai watch Xiao Wu gave to Yu Yan, Kuliang said it costs about 200 yuan. Lu Hong took a closer look and saw that the shiny new watch was worth the money. "I couldn't help but feel sour in my heart. If Jasmine hadn't acted like a monster, this watch would have been given to her." But she still stood by Yu Yan and said, "Since Xiao Wu can give away, what can't Yu Yan accept?" Someone supported it, and Xiao Yuyan said even more proudly, "That's right. Brother Wu Wei said he brought it specially for me." At this time, Mr. Qiao Wu, who had been smoking silently, said something. $200 now is really nothing to him. A sentence may seem ordinary, but it contains a lot of information. Lu Hong listened calmly on the surface, but she felt even more regretful in her heart. So much so that as soon as he returned to his yard, he yelled at his daughter who was watching TV and said, "Listen to what your fifth uncle said. Now Xiao Wu has made a lot of money, and he and Yuyan haven't had much to do with each other. The first sale is 200 yuan Shanghai watch. If you had listened to my advice, this Shanghai watch would be on your wrist today." Qiao Moli showed her wrist and said carelessly, "Mom, I have a watch, I don't care about it." Lu Hong was so angry that she went straight to Secretary Qiao and said, "Listen to what your daughter is saying. When will she be able to have some heart?" Secretary Qiao held the teapot and took a sip. "Just now he said, just a watch can make you regret it like this. Then in the future, after Wu Wei becomes famous and prosperous, and then marries Yuyan home in a glorious way, you will regret it to death." Lu Hong suddenly became even more angry. Neither father nor daughter was worried. Secretary Qiao glanced at his daughter from the ground. The father talked about this, but the daughter still had no reaction. It seems that the two children are really not on the radio. He turned around and advised the mother-in-law, "Okay, you should calm down. Yu Yan is not an outsider. If she really marries Wu Wei later, she will not let the money go to outsiders. You are also the third aunt." After her words of persuasion, no matter how angry Lu Hong was, she couldn't show it. She had no choice but to say, "Third aunt sounds so old." At the same time, the third sister-in-law Lu Hong left. Chen Yuejuan turned around and asked Fifth Master quietly, "Is that kid really making a lot of money?" Fifth Master Qiao nodded. Fourth brother also saw it today. After all, the 7 or 8,000 yuan was given to Wang Jing under the eyes of the two of them. Chen Yuejuan was horrified. The fifth master suddenly changed the subject and said, "Now the young girls in the meat factory all know what he is capable of and they are all targeting him." Chen Yuejuan glanced at Qiao Yuyan, who was still in the room and couldn't put down her watch. "Then watch carefully and don't let other girls take it away." Fifth Master Qiao rolled his eyes at his wife. "If I don't watch him, can my daughter come back tonight to get this watch? There are also engineering matters. You should treat it as your own child's project." After all this gesticulation came to work, Mr. Qiao finally got impatient, got up and went out with his hands behind his back. Fence yard. Xiaochun put a basket in the noodle pot. While cooking the noodles, I also heated up the 2 boxes of vegetables that Qiao Yuyan brought over. After a while, the noodles came out of the pot. Served with a box of braised pork and a box of stewed cabbage, it is considered a rich meal. Even so, Xiaochun still couldn't bear to eat meat, and just held a box of stewed cabbage and served noodles. until Wu Wei personally put it into her bowl and said, "What? I make so much money, isn't it enough for you to let go of eating meat?" Xiaochun said without hesitation, "No matter how much money you have, it will be reserved for you to get a wife. What a waste if you use it to eat meat." Wu Wei deliberately laughed at himself. "Okay, I understand. You think I don't earn enough?" As expected, Xiaochun just accepted this trick and quickly took the initiative to pick up a piece of meat. "Is this okay?" Wu Wei was not satisfied yet. "Hurry up and finish your meal. I have to return the lunch box to teacher Chiao tomorrow." Ah, Xiaochun was surprised. Then the conversation changed. "By the way, second brother, I almost forgot to tell you. 2 days ago, Qin Xiru came to our house because of matters related to the Zishan brick kiln factory. She is said to be a womanly person. If she really offended you before, I will ask you to ignore the faults of the villain. She really wants to sell this brick kiln. If you really want to buy it, you can go to her house to talk." Okay, this woman comes directly to the door and makes it clear. However, Wu Wei remained unmoved and said, "Okay, I understand." Seeing this, Xiaochun thought that her second brother looked down on the dirty and tired brick kiln. Then he persuaded, "Second brother, how about we stop building a brick kiln?" As a result, before he finished speaking, Wu Wei interrupted him and said, "That won't work." Then he explained, "You don't understand. Once the brick kiln factory is completed, making money will be much more stable than taking on the project. And even if the brick kiln is completed, there will be no delay in taking over the project. From now on, we will provide the red bricks for the project ourselves." In his previous life, he and Qin Xiru not only turned over a new leaf with the brick kiln factory, but also became the first group of people to get rich. Now it seems that even if this factory is not a cash cow, it is at least a laying goose. Wu Wei will definitely not let it go. As for wasting Qin Xiru for a while. In his previous life, this woman wasted his whole life, so what's wrong with wasting her for a few months? It's already very cheap for her. The next day, early in the morning of December 2nd, Wu Wei had just arrived at the meat processing factory site not long ago. Wang Jun came with Section Chief Tang and Section Chief Song. Wu Wei hurriedly stood up to greet him, followed by the 4 and 5 elders, which was also an equal reception lineup. "Director Wang, welcome to guide our work." The two sides shook hands, and Wang Jun patted Wu Wei's arm and said, "It's not about guidance. Today we are just going through the motions. After all, the entire factory was built brick by brick under our eyes. We have seen the level of the two masters." This speech also involved Wu Wei and the two elders. Wang Jun's words were still so flawless. Even so, Wu Wei still followed the rules and led Wang Jun and others around inside and outside. By the way, he made a serious and detailed report on the current progress of the work and the amount of work to be finished. After listening, Wang Jun smiled and said, "I heard from Lao Song and Lao Tang that the small Western-style building you built, Master Wu, is impeccable. I didn't believe it at first, but now I have to believe it. Now my heart is completely put back in my stomach. Who would marry into the family after being reborn?" Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 108. Send away Wang Jun and the two section chiefs. Wu Wei turned around and heard Master Chiao Wei ask, "Does this mean that our second project payment has been secured?" After all, anyone with a discerning eye can see it. Wang Jun brought people here this time to go through the second phase acceptance process. Without waiting for Wu Wei's response, Fourth Master Chiao then teased, "Look at how anxious you are, can you be as steady as me?" These two brothers would choke if they didn't say more than 3 words. Wu Wei quickly interrupted, "I guess it's almost done." Not long after, Wang Jing, the factory flower, brought positive news. "I just heard that the finance department has gone through the process again for your second batch of project funds. This incident was unexpected by Wu Wei and did not cause much trouble. Wang Jing, on the other hand, said with expectation, with this batch of project funds, can we collect more treasury bills? The payment of yesterday's batch of treasury bills allowed Wang Jing to get all the benefits in the factory and steal the limelight. After the limelight passed, more people came to visit. So Wang Jing is more anxious than Wu Wei now. However, Wu Wei was extremely cautious and said, this second batch of project funds is only enough to pay the final payment for materials and workers' wages. If you want to spend more treasury bills, the key is to rely on the final payment. When Wang Jing heard this, she became interested. He patted his chest until it swayed and said, don't worry, I will keep an eye on the balance for you. After saying this, Wang Jing changed her tone, turned her beautiful eyes slightly, and said with a slight blush on her pretty face, I heard that someone invited you to watch a movie, but you didn't agree? How about I feel aggrieved and accompany you for once? These factory flowers are really more attractive than the last one. Even so, Wu Wei still said sternly, no, you must not wrong yourself. Then he said with a serious face, it's important to do the right thing. Wang Jing asked for trouble and left even more itchy and unbearable. Looking at the other party's back, Wu Wei had to admit that Wang Jing was quite attractive today. It's a pity that I really have no intention of recruiting her. After work that night, Wu Wei went back to the small courtyard, washed briefly, and changed into clean clothes. Then he rushed to the teacher's dormitory in the county without stopping. Even so, Wu Wei was still a step too late. Downstairs in the teacher's dormitory, there was already a guy, dressed like a dog, holding a bouquet of flowers, looking forward to it. In contrast, Wu Wei came empty-handed, not counting the 2 movie tickets in his pocket. The two looked at each other. Wu Wei recognized the other party as Hao Yang. The young section chief was introduced to Qiao Yuyan by the dean. But this Chief Hao doesn't look young at all. He was wearing a dark blue tunic suit that looked a little too big on him. Coupled with the highly myopic lenses, it makes people feel that he is 70 or 80 years old, like an old scholar. And even though he was holding flowers, he felt even more embarrassed than if he had nothing. Who could like this bare look? After meeting Hao Yang, Wu Wei went upstairs in a leisurely manner. After all, he has been here not just once or twice, but he has already become familiar with it. Finally, when they went up to the second floor and walked to the door of Qiao Yuyan and Ma Jiajia's dormitory, Hao Yang downstairs was a little belatedly aware. Damn it, that guy is also here for Qiao Yuyan. Sure enough, the next moment, Qiao Yuyan opened the door, directly took the other person's arm, and went downstairs as if intimate. Seeing this scene, Hao Yang's heart bleeds. He held flowers downstairs in the dormitory and waited for an hour, but saw no one. Let this guy snatch people away as soon as they meet. Not to mention snatching it away, it was still so close. Hao Yang's eyes were about to burst and his teeth were clenched. In fact, Wu Wei also felt that Qiao Yuyan was a little unusually proactive today. Even if he gave her a watch, he wouldn't let her take the initiative to this extent. It wasn't until he rode on the 28th pole and drove the other party away that Wu Wei asked about it. Qiao Yuyan then said helplessly, that guy is still here. He is too difficult to deal with. I just want to make him angry on purpose. Wu Wei said seriously, okay, I will come to play with you more often and help you make him angry. Qiao Yuyan's beautiful eyes moved slightly. Do you want to come to me, or do you want to help? As expected, literary young women love to admit death. I want both, Wu Wei blurted out, but the former has a greater proportion. Qiao Yuyan hummed softly at first, and then her smile widened at the corner of her mouth. Downstairs in the teacher's dormitory, Ma Jiajia came downstairs holding the book and looked at Hao Yang's useless look. He sighed and said, go back, Chief Hao. Teacher Qiao has made an appointment with someone to watch a movie tonight. You're waiting in vain. Hao Yang's eyes were red with excitement, but I prepared flowers as you said, but that guy was empty-handed. Why should she go with him? Ma Jiajia felt a little ridiculous hearing this. You are already a section chief, why are you still so naive and asking such stupid questions? But the dean gave instructions first. Ma Jiajia could only explain patiently, did you see the new watch in Yuyan's hand? The Shanghai watch, more than 200 yuan, was given as a gift. After saying this, his eyes fell on the bouquet of flowers in Hao Yang's arms. The implication is, isn't the Shanghai watch much better than your bouquet of flowers? Besides, I gave you this bouquet of fake flowers because I reminded you. How can you compare yourself to others? Just based on the section chief title above your head? Hao Yang was speechless. But the fake flowers had already been bought, and they couldn't be returned. He simply stuffed them into Ma Jiajia's arms and said, I'll give them to you. I'm leaving. Ma Jiajia was also shocked by this operation. He gave her things that others didn't want. What did he think of herself? How did this guy become a section chief? Looking at Hao Yang's frustrated back, Ma Jiajia wanted to throw the fake flowers away. But when she walked to the trash can, she held back. She turned around and went upstairs to put the fake flowers back in the dormitory. The Red Star Cinema was crowded in the evening. Wu Wei spent 5 cents to send the car, and then let Jiao Yuyan hold his arm and go in to check the tickets. He did this before to annoy Hao Yang. Now that Hao Yang is not here, he just wants to follow the crowd. Because most of the people who come to watch the movie are young men and women who are dating. Those who go out in pairs all hold their arms very intimately. If they go separately, it would seem different. Even so, Jiao Yuyan still didn't let go when they entered the dim movie theater. Only when they found a seat and sat down did they have to let go temporarily. The movie started soon. Wu Wei found that the movie theater was indeed a good place to date. It was obviously such a serious and critical film, and it was shot very deeply and thought-provoking. Most young men and women can hug each other and bite each other without distraction. Can you be more mature like me and watch a movie seriously? Until someone suddenly kissed her on the cheek. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 109. Wu Wei turned around. In the darkness, Jiao Yuyan lowered her head guiltily, looking at a loss. Apart from being funny, it's also quite cute. He simply opened his arms and took the person into his arms, grabbing the delicate hand that had nowhere to rest. Jiao Yuyan was caught off guard and began to explain what she had just done. That's to compensate for what I owed you last night. The love affair last night was unexpectedly interrupted by Xiao Chun. It makes sense to make up for it now. Wu Wei nodded and continued to watch the movie, just stroking that soft and boneless hand. Jiao Yuyan was already upset by the noise from the person next to her. In addition, the palms of his hands were constantly being teased in this way, and the aroused emotions could not be controlled from above. I don't know how long it took before I plucked up the courage and said, you said I am your honey, don't you want to have a taste? In dim light. Who can bear the words of a girl who is at your disposal? Wu Wei did not speak, but answered the other party with practical actions. No matter what the movie criticizes, life still has to go on. In an instant, Jiao Yuyan felt as if her whole body was light and floating above the boundless clouds. Unfortunately, the movie ended soon. The lights above her head turned on, and Jiao Yuyan reluctantly left the place where she was intoxicated. The affection between her eyebrows and eyes was so strong that it was silky. On the way back, Jiao Yuyan sat in the back seat, tightly holding Wu Wei's waist and pressing her whole body against his majestic back. It seems that if you have him, you have the whole world. Not long after, Xiao Yuyan asked curiously, why do you say I am your honey? It feels so useless. Wu Wei stared at the car slowly and said, this is a story. After listening to it, you will know how important you are. Oh, then come and listen. There was a traveler walking alone in the desert. Wu Wei's voice was full of magnetism as he narrated the story of a drop of honey. After hearing this, Xiao Yuyan was fascinated and deeply intoxicated. When the story came to an abrupt end, Xiao Yuyan realized that her eyes had become blurred unknowingly. As a teacher, she naturally understands the profound meaning behind this fable. But what she couldn't figure out was, life is obviously so beautiful, why does Brother Wu Wei always think of it as a hard journey? What exactly had he experienced since childhood that gave him such a profound experience? But the more she couldn't figure it out, the more she became fascinated by Wu Wei. But now is not the time to think about this. Xiao Yuyan wiped the corners of her eyes, tried to calm her voice and said, Brother Wu Wei, can you sing nothing? Wu Wei was really surprised and said, you also know this song. Xiao Yuyan hummed, I want to hear you sing. The next moment, Wu Wei roared at the top of his lungs. This song, the originator of mainland rock music, is not very difficult at all. What stood out was a hoarse, hysterical voice. Fortunately, Wu Wei, as a rough man, is not lacking in any of these two aspects. While pedaling the 28-bar, swinging left and right, walking the S-line, he roared to his heart's content. It seems like a very average behavior. But in the eyes of young literary and artistic women, it has a whole new interpretation. He has nothing and sings about his loneliness. A drop of honey speaks of his despair. The more Xiao Yuyan thought about it, the more convinced she became, and the more she listened, the more emotional she became. So unknowingly, he silently hugged Wu Wei tightly. It was as if she wanted to use her heart to warm his loneliness and dilute his despair. In fact, Wu Wei didn't think so much at all. He just felt that teacher Xiao was too easy to deceive when he was young. Not long after, the county was in sight. Wu Wei cleared his voice and stopped roaring. Xiao Yuyan did not let go of her embrace, she still held her so tightly. So Wu Wei had to drive straight in and step downstairs to the teacher's dormitory building. The car stopped. Xiao Yuyan reluctantly let go of her arms and looked at Wu Wei lovingly. He wanted to invite him up for a drink of water, but he saw Ma Jiajia on the second floor with her head exposed with a toothbrush in her mouth. Wu Viang raised his hand and said, go and have a rest early. Xiao Yuyan just looked at him, you go back first, I'll watch you leave. Wu Wei turned away from the car, stepped on and left. Just when Xiao Yuyan's heart suddenly felt empty, she waved to her without looking back. Xiao Yuyan suddenly smiled and went upstairs humming. When I returned to the dormitory, the first thing I saw was the bouquet of flowers. Xiao Yuyan didn't ask the whole story and just suggested, Jia Jia, since you think Chief Hao is a nice person, you might as well talk to him. How about being the wife of the section chief in the future? Ma Jiajia's heart moved, but she said insincerely, Chief Hao is chasing you, not me. Xiao Yuyan spread her hands and said, you also know my choice. Then Ma Jiajia said without urging, anyway, just think about it. After leaving the county, Wu Wei returned to the fence yard, recalling Xiao Yuyan's initiative all the way. As expected, she is a woman who has read books, and one sentence can make her blood boil. But looking back, Wu Wei couldn't help but wonder. It's possible that this girl's Zishun revealed Mi Tang's statement. But how did she know the song Nothing? In doubt, he called for the door to be opened. Xiaochun was still busy in the house, Li Xiaokan and Ma Ling had gone home. Seeing her second brother come back, Xiaochun was obviously relieved. This girl has a lot of money hidden at home. She was worried about Li Xiaokan and Ma Ling staying at home, but she didn't tell me. Fortunately, I came back, otherwise I would be worried and couldn't sleep well that night. I will come back in the future, don't worry. Wu Wei pushed the car into the yard. Let Xiao-chun close the door behind him and said, there is hot water in the pot, you can soak your feet and warm your body. There are also sweet potatoes buried at the bottom of the pot, you can eat them after digging them out. Wu Wei parked the car, turned around and said, okay, I know, you should go to bed early too. In the dead of night, Wu Wei soaked his feet below and ate sweet potatoes above. It was simple, but he enjoyed it. But since the beginning of winter, the house at home has been leaking everywhere, so it is too cold. Wu Wei thought, why not let Xiao-chun and Zishun move to the small courtyard on Bei'ai Road in advance, and then install a heating stove in the small courtyard, wouldn't it be better than staying at home and freezing? The next morning, during breakfast, Wu Wei mentioned this to his third sister. Xiao-chun was obviously a little surprised, but since it was the decision of his second brother, she did not object. It's just that in the future, I'm afraid I'll have to run back and forth to connect with the fourth master for the soft covering work of furniture. Just after I finished talking about this, Li Xiaoqun and Ma Ling arrived. Xiao-chun immediately told them about the vacated land, and the two girls heard about moving into the city. Everyone was so excited. After all, these days, which rural girl doesn't yearn for a city life with commercial grain? Tomorrow's update will be earlier, before 12 o'clock. It will be put on the shelves at midnight on the 1st. I sincerely ask the Yanzu who have followed this to give a first order at that time. Thank you all. Who would marry into the family after being reborn? Author, Ben Pao de Ba Ling Ho. Chapter 110. After breakfast, Wu Wei went straight to the county seat. As a result, on the way, I met Xiang Hui, who was coming in a hurry. This guy obviously knew that he was coming back, so he came here early. From a distance, I was so excited that I waved my hands. When the two cars arrived, this honest brother-in-law was really happy and couldn't wait to take out a cigarette for Wu Wei. Wu Wei makes his own money, so how can he buy cigarettes with his parents' pocket money? So a flower was pushed back. The curious Yang Hui said whatever he thought of, brother, has Huazi become your ration of cigarettes? Wu Wei waved his hand and said, these are all external things, so why bother with them? Then the conversation changed, I just have something I need your help with. While talking, he took out about 300 yuan and said, today I asked Xiao-chun and the others to move to the small courtyard on Bei'ai Road. The conditions there are better and Xiao-chun can work more comfortably. You have time to help. By the way, take this money to buy Xiao-chun a car, and buy a 3-burner heating stove with a chimney in the courtyard. However, Xiang Hui refused to accept the money and said politely to Wu Wei, brother, I have money. Wu Wei pushed it over and said, you have money, that's yours. I bought this for my sister, how can I use your money? Xiang Hui could only hold her in his arms and said, brother, you are so kind to Xiao-chun. Nonsense, that's my biological sister, Wu Wei said matter-of-factly. After all, I spent a lot of money to buy a watch for Qiao Yuyan, and it was only natural to buy a car for Xiao-chun. Wu Wei took care of everything, which saved him from distractions. After entering the county town, Wu Wei went straight to Wang's house in the north of the city. This project is led by the fourth senior brother Zike. Since the start of the project, he has not shown his face. It doesn't make sense either emotionally or rationally. Fortunately, it had just been a few days since construction started here, so it wasn't too late for Wu Wei to show up. After greeting the owner, Wu Wei took a look at the situation on site. The freezing conditions after the snow had a certain impact on the progress of the project. Fortunately, they were all resolved one by Zike. Now that the foundation has been raised, it won't be a big problem if we work hard during the day when the temperature is above freezing. Of course, the construction schedule will definitely be delayed by a few days compared to before. This is also inevitable. But for all-inclusive hosts, 3 or 5 days doesn't matter. They don't need to spend more money anyway. After wandering around for a while, Wu Wei was about to leave. Aunt Wang came over quietly, looking like she was hesitant to speak. Upon seeing this, Zike left decisively, leaving Wu Wei behind and said with a smile, "Aunt Wang, if you have anything to say, just say it. Don't you understand me?" Aunt Wang said nonchalantly, "It's my fault too. Last time I got my salary and went home, and made new clothes for my 2 children for the new year. In the end, somehow, Yang Gang and Xiao Lan found out about this. I heard that later on, the two of them frantically searched for Qiao Qiao in the city. They searched for Qiao Qiao for several days and couldn't find her. When they returned home, they had a fight. The beating made both Xiao Deki and his family come over to break up the fight, and everyone in the village knew about it." Wu Wei frowned. "Fortunately, I went to Shanghai by chance. Who are the people in this family?" Feeling lucky, he comforted him casually, "Let them fight. Anyway, they won't be able to find Qiao Qiao for a while." Aunt Wang subconsciously asked, "Boss, where did Qiao Qiao go?" Wu Wei did not answer, but gave her a look. Aunt Wang waved her hands and said, "I won't ask any more. I don't know what's best about this matter." Wu Wei nodded, "You also know that I'm not guarding you." Aunt Wang nodded repeatedly, I know. Then go ahead and get going, I'm leaving." After leaving the Wang family in the north of the city, Wu Wei went to the Lin family led by Master Gao. Finally, we returned to the meat factory before lunch. As the new year approaches, the popularity around the meat factory has obviously increased. These days, Old Man Zheng and son Erdeo are also very busy, and the production capacity of the meat joint factory is directly at full capacity. The only one who suffered was Brother Zhu, who came from all over the country. But the food in the canteen of the meat factory has also become a lot richer. The portion of pig offal is becoming more and more abundant, and you can even eat some good pig-killing dishes. After lunch, Wu Weigang squatted down at the door of the workshed to bask in the sun. Qiao Yuyan, wrapped in a scarf, floated over. Wu Wei looked at the door and said, "Why did you come in directly?" Qiao Yuyan explained, "Xiao Gong, the gatekeeper, knew me and let me in directly." After saying this, Qiao Yuyan said hello to the fourth master, and He Qiang who were standing next to her. The fourth master nodded and snickered. He was mainly laughing at fifth master. "After all, my daughter finally came here and said hello to others before calling her dad. Otherwise, this daughter was raised for someone else. What's the point of working so hard to raise her to eat commercial food and become a city dweller? In the end, she is not someone else's daughter-in-law." Fifth Master Qiao looked unhappy and got up directly and entered the workshed. Female students are not allowed to stay in college. Qiao Yuyan didn't pay attention to these details at all. At this moment, she was anxiously taking out a pair of woolen gloves that she had just made. He put it on Wu Wei's hand and said, "It's cold. I just learned to knit a pair of gloves to save your hands from getting cold while riding in the morning and evening." Fourth Master watched from behind, smiling even more happily. The treatment that even a father doesn't get is given to others first. This girl can do it. Wu Wei put on the gloves and felt warm. "Very good, I accept it." Qiao Yuyan then asked, "Then tonight?" Obviously, after tasting the sweetness, she wanted Wu Wei to continue to taste her honey. But Qiao Ziyi suddenly remembered and interrupted, "Not tonight, tonight your third uncle, me, and your father are going to drink with Xiao Wu." Qiao Yuyan then remembered her father and raised her voice to the shed, "Dad, is it true?" Qiao Ziyi laughed and scolded, "You girl, you don't believe me." Qiao Wui's voice came from the shed, "It's true." Then, relying on his status as an old father, he reprimanded, "On weekdays, you should concentrate on teaching in school and don't always think about sticking to Xiao Wu." he is a big man and has so many important things to do. How can he have time to be affectionate with you every day? Xiao Yuyan said to her father, Humph, without me, do you think he would drink with you old guys? Xiao Wei looked up at the sky speechlessly. This girl has been raised in vain, she hasn't even married yet, but every word she says hits hard. Wherever I am soft, she hits me. Xiao Ziyi couldn't laugh anymore, after all, he was also implicated in this remark. So much so that Wu Wei was dumbfounded. Good fellow, Mr. Xiao, how dare you? Xiao Yuyan also felt wronged. I heard that the beauty of the meat processing factory was about to pounce on Wu Wei. It would be fine if he didn't help me block it, but he asked me to work hard and stop clinging to him. Is this still my biological father?